Okay, please stand by. Okay, we're going to start this again. This is the IEEE webinar, IEEE USA webinar, November 12th by Elizabeth Lyons, and that would be me, and it is entitled Snoopy Employers. My perspective is a little bit different in the market because for nearly a decade I've been a headhunter, and part of my job was to sit before hiring managers in large companies and small companies and understand exactly why a person was hired, fired, or promoted. And I would also sell our services to help them to find talent for the organizations. These conversations changed me because I started to understand how organizations worked. And I started to see a big disconnect in terms of how people could find the right jobs, how to market themselves in there, and what employers really looked for. And in recession, what they look for is a little bit different. And the point of this presentation is to show you how to use social media to gain attention and traction in the market. I also have a national private practice as a career counselor. I did do it locally in Portland, Oregon, and now I'm able to do webinars and also sessions through Skype and other ways to reach people that need some help. In July of this year, my book was published, and it is called Recession Proof Yourself, and it is for people that are in transition during this time that just need a hand navigating the market. The book was based off of all the conversations I had with hiring managers and candidates in terms of how they found work and how they went about it. And I've also been very active with the IEEE USA, and I have had 11 articles published, all of them job-related for the technical individual. Why I really do this work. I feel a deep obligation to share what I know, because I know that if I share that, you'll find the right job and the right position for you, and you'll find a good manager to report to. And most importantly, you'll take your skills to a place where you feel valued. And one day in my career, I got to the point where I couldn't represent everyone in town and find them jobs. So I realized that what I needed to do was to go out and teach people how to fish instead of fishing for them. And so the more that I can pass on what I know that employers won't tell you, that information makes you more powerful and strategic and will lead you to the right place in your career. Okay, so what we'll discuss today. The presentation is based off an IEEE USA article that will be published in December entitled Snoopy Employers. This presentation will talk about what an employer looks at when they look at your LinkedIn profile or other social media. It will also give you some social media best practices. And also, I'd like to give you some competitive strategies to market yourself through social media, specifically LinkedIn, because that seems to be the professional who's who and where employers tend to look first. So I wanted to give you some data and some idea of what really happens out there in social media and wrap some numbers around that. By 2010, Generation Y, which is, I guess you could sum it up by saying the 20-something, will outnumber the baby boomers by 96%. And all of them have joined a social network. Interestingly enough, 1 out of 8 couples married in the US last year met via social media. So I'm assuming that's Match.com or one of those sites. There is a percentage of companies that use LinkedIn as a primary tool to find employees, 80% in fact. In my experience, we do look on LinkedIn every time a candidate comes to us prior to picking up the phone or even asking them what they're looking for. We actually do some background checks on the internet to figure out who you are, what your skill set is, and if anything else is going on in your life. Which brings my next point. What happens in Vegas stays on YouTube, Flickr, Twitter, and Facebook. The days of what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas are over. And then interestingly enough, there are a whole lot of blogs out there. Now, I'm not sure who has time to read all the blogs or write all the blogs, but there's a whole bunch of stuff going on out there. I do have a blog myself, and it's okay, but it is time consuming. And I'm kind of the person that I don't even own a plant. So to have a blog is something else I need to upkeep. I did it because of the book, and I did it because there's some interesting stories out there that I'd like to share with you. But for the most part, blogs are out there, and it's amazing how many people take the time to read them or write them. And I'll talk about that a little further, about how you could use a blog and if that can help you in your career or hinder your career. Okay, we're going to do a poll here quickly, and Helen will assist me in that. I wanted to get some feeling for the audience and what your experience is with social media. And here we go. Which social media do you use the most? Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or some other one? Thank you for casting the vote. This really helps me to understand the audience more, and in particular, the technical audience. Interesting. It seems like a lot of you folks on LinkedIn. Okay, so we've closed the poll now. So 79% are on LinkedIn and about 21% on Facebook. Facebook is kind of neat. It's like a backyard barbecue, I would say. It's a great way to connect with friends and family. And LinkedIn is a whole different ball of wax, and I'm going to share with you the employer's view and what they look for in LinkedIn. So right now it's recession, unemployment is high, but it still costs the employer money to run an ad. And so what we're seeing, and one of the things I do, is I'll actually go on LinkedIn and type in the skill set and the city that I'm looking within for the talent and see who pops up. Some people will say right on their LinkedIn profile they are in transition, and that tells me that they are looking for work. But the ones that aren't in transition, I'm equally interested in as well. It's a cheap, quick way to find people without having to post an ad on Monster or Hot Jobs or Career Builder. And those packages are actually very costly and expensive for an employer. Any resume that we receive within the office, we actually go through LinkedIn and see who they are, what are their credentials, and so forth. The other thing that I tend to do is before I meet with any hiring manager in town, I always do a LinkedIn search. LinkedIn will tell me a lot of interesting information. Sometimes there's a picture posted. It will tell me where they went to school, which will help me to identify who they are, a little bit about them. For instance, if they're from the Midwest or the West Coast or the East Coast, it kind of gives me a snapshot of who they are from a cultural standpoint, and I will actually curtail my meetings so that I am respectful in front of them and communicating in a way that they can easily understand. I won't meet with anyone without looking at LinkedIn. Recently, with the email traffic I've gotten through my career counseling practice and the speaking engagements I've done, I go on LinkedIn now before I even answer email because I want to know who are you and who am I responding to. Recruiters use LinkedIn quite a bit as well, and I want to kind of warn you, if a recruiter asks you to be in their LinkedIn, that's fine, but know that they may also mine, if you will, your contacts. So just think about that a little bit. They might want to see who you're tied to, who you're connected to, so that then they can find candidates or call on clients, which may even be your boss. So just something to think about. Social media can be used to your advantage as long as there's discretion around it. You want to kind of remember that people are going to look at your LinkedIn or look at social media in general, and they're going to base a judgment immediately off of whatever you've put out there, and they're going to come to conclusions. In marketing, it's all about kind of controlling the perception. So just remember, all is fair in love, war, and business. Some other things that employers think when it comes to LinkedIn or Google or Facebook or any of them. In 2006, I had heard through the grapevine that a very large software company north of me in Seattle had actually hired and employed 2 people that did nothing but type in people's names, candidates' names, and then see what popped up online. So they ran a Google search, they definitely ran a MySpace search, a Facebook search, and if there was anything subject on there, how would I say this, public conversations about partying on the weekends or going here or there or behavioral things. If they got a snapshot into this candidate's life and they deemed them as high risk or something that they didn't want within their organization, they didn't even call them in for the interview. Now, the reason the employers thought that was because why would we bother to spend all our time and resources drug testing, background testing, possibly running them through a credit check? All these things get very expensive if you're hiring a lot of employees. Why would they bother to do that if they could just look on social media and get an idea of your character? You know, there's both sides of the fence on that. Doesn't matter where you sit on it necessarily and what your view is and your opinion is on that. It's more about if you're on social media, keep it clean. You're out there and you're going to be judged and you're going to be examined. Employers are looking for behaviors, not necessarily facts. They may not be anything, but they're looking at a perception and they will screen you in or screen you out. And it was a cost-cutting measure at some point. We're going to do another poll, and I wanted to take a look at some social media and what you thought about that, and Helen will assist me with that. Here we go. So I want to get some sensation for what do you use social media channels for the most? So do you use them as a job search tool or to kind of strut your stuff in a public forum? Or do you do it just to keep in touch with family and friends? You know, and that's not a bad thing either. Sometimes it's better just to know the family and friends on the computer. You know what I mean? Or do you use it to build your network? Oh, look at this. Okay, interesting. A lot of you are using this to build your network. We'll talk about that in a minute. I'm wondering how effective that is. And we're going to close the poll. 61% you guys guys and gals are using it to build your network. So here's how you can kind of use LinkedIn to your advantage. It is okay to say on your LinkedIn profile that you're in transition or that you're looking for a new opportunity. That's fine. Pictures are optional, but I would say professional pictures are best. It doesn't have to be suit and tie, but just a nice headshot of you. Pictures can become distracting. If I'm looking for talent, I don't want to see if you have small children in your photo. I don't really want to see you if you're hiking or skiing or biking. I don't want to know that about you. Not on LinkedIn. Facebook or another social media, that's a different story. On LinkedIn, I want to see who you are in the professional world. Marketing has to be attractive to the masses. So you don't want to exclude anyone. You don't want to do anything that's going to be offensive. You want a picture and some information about you and where you've been in your career. Less is more on LinkedIn. I'm not saying don't have a complete profile. That's fine. But we're all very busy, and so if somebody is going on LinkedIn to see who you are, we want the meat and potatoes about who you are. So your education credential, that should be on there. That gives us some idea. And then the career building blocks all the way up. I don't know that you have to get into very specific details about what you did in every position, but if you use certain software tools or you worked on some interesting projects, that might be of interest within the LinkedIn. I wouldn't make it too lengthy because people won't read the whole thing, and you want to reel them in and grab them and hold them there. And you want to also make sure that your online presence is consistent. So I don't know that you want your social media, your Facebook or your other media to be that grossly different than your LinkedIn. There should be some consistency with everything you put out there online. And you want to try to use LinkedIn to your advantage. It's a professional space. Facebook is supposed to feel like a backyard barbecue with pictures and family and friends and catching up and connecting. Although, again, you're going to want to have your marketing fairly consistent. You want to complete your profile so it's a big, broad brushstroke so that everybody can understand what you do. It's not too technical and loaded down with jargon. But we know what you do and the important parts of your career that you need to highlight. People that read it should know, here's the bottom line. People will come to me and say, would you read my LinkedIn? Would you tell me what you think? Here's what I want to know in 15 seconds or less. I want to know what your job title is, what industry you've come out of, your skill set, any kind of software expertise, and the years of experience. And I call that time in the saddle. This is an overall description to you. Okay, so I'm sorry, I had a question come in here. So somebody asked me, how do you dummy down, if you will? Here's my concern. If I'm in HR or I'm just a recruiter and I don't understand exactly what an electrical engineer does or a software engineer does or a firmware engineer, and I don't really understand what your job is about, you're gonna wanna write this in a way that I could understand it if I'm a layperson and non-technical. If you don't, those people that are looking in your LinkedIn profile, you'll miss the boat and you won't capture them. So again, if you keep it to industry, skill set, software expertise, years of experience, and you make that kind of clear, then even the layperson, the non-technical person, can find you. Where do you start? Some people come to me and say, I don't even know how to write this. What am I going to do? Just use your resume as a guide. It's a guide. You don't want to type your entire resume on LinkedIn, but again, it will give you those high points that you can weave in and complete the profile within LinkedIn. Think of your profile as your calling card or an extended business card of you. You want it easy to read and to just paint a quick picture of who you are. Recommendations are nice, and I'm back and forth on that issue because they're subjective. And we all know that we worked with someone that we liked or respected, and we'll stroll over to them in their cube and say, hey, would you write something on my LinkedIn? And when I'm looking at profiles, I start to wonder, is this subjective? Is this credible? Will this recommendation really hold weight? So that's what I'm kind of looking for there, the meat and potatoes of who wrote it, frankly. I always like to consider the source. And then the other thing I would make sure on your LinkedIn is any kind of educational credentials that carry weight. So if you have any coursework in addition to your degree, that was important. Any particular software that is very specialized to an industry, that would be great. Any advanced degrees, please list those. If you're interested in something or you have a side project that's technical in nature, add that to there. That's all good points and tells me more about you. And actually, I do read all the way to the bottom of LinkedIn. Sometimes, to be honest with you, I will skim through the body very quickly. I look at the top and the bottom. That's not uncommon. People remember the first thing they read and the last thing. So I want some first bits of information about you, and then I want the last bit. How do you use LinkedIn to search companies? This is an extremely powerful tool. Okay, so if you're going to consider interviewing, or if you networked with someone and you know they work at ABC company, you could actually get onto LinkedIn and quickly understand who are you meeting. And then also, if you just do a broad search under ABC company or XYZ company within your city or state, up will pop all these other individuals that are on LinkedIn. And that might be good food for thought. You're going to want to kind of look at what is their skill set and what perspective are they coming from. Are they in accounting? Are they in marketing? Are they in engineering? Where are they coming from and what is their perspective? And then do a little detective work if you are going to meet someone for an interview prior to your interview. So the day before, to be candid with you, should be spent in prepping and researching the company, the hiring manager's name, anybody else in HR that you're going to meet, and figure out who they are and where did they come from. And you're going to think about your interview style and catering it to them. So, a little deeper into this. So for example, if I were going to go on an interview at a company, I would know who their competitors are. I would know the revenue of the company, how many employees there were. I would be typing in the manager's name. I would want to know where they went to college, because it would give me some idea of where they grew up and what their reference point is. I would want to know their education and kind of what they think is necessary to do the job. I would absolutely look at HR, and I would want to know if they're a VP of HR Are they an HR generalist, which means they're not very familiar with hiring, they're a generalist, or are they simply a clerk or someone who's just going to do the initial phone screen and be a part of the meeting? You're going to want to understand the pecking order of who's in that room before you get in the room, because that's what's good for you. You want to balance the scales. If they can research you, you can research them as well. Now we're going to talk about trust and friends, all this friends stuff. I would say in probably 2005, 2004, LinkedIn started becoming more prevalent in Portland, Oregon, where I reside. And we started to hear a lot about it from down in the Bay Area. And because they're very technical in nature down there, and they started talking a lot about LinkedIn, and you should join. And at the time, all of us here in the area were not on LinkedIn, to be candid with you. We thought that it was kind of a time sucker, and we didn't really want to do it, and so a lot of us didn't. But if you remember, if someone sends you an invite, it says on LinkedIn, "Dear so-and-so, I consider you a trusted member or a trusted person within my network. Would you please connect with me?" That word trusted is important, because when we're talking about a professional network, in my opinion, I think that you should know who it is you're letting into your network to see your contacts and who it is that you're really connecting with. I think it's very easy to just click the mouse and accept invitations and become friends and all this other stuff, but do you really know who they are? Because that's actually important. I want to talk a little bit of what I call backdooring people out of your LinkedIn. I had a bit of a situation a few months ago. I was driving in the car, and someone called me up out of the blue and said, "Do you know so-and-so?" and said this man's name. And I said, "Yes." I mean, I'm driving down the car, and here's somebody barraging me. "Do you know so-and-so?" And I said, "Yes." And they said, "Do you know how to get a hold of him?" And I said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, who are you?" And he said, "Actually, I work for an attorney's office, and I'm trying to serve him papers." And I went, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't know anything about this, nor do I want to know anything about this." And he said, "Well, could you get a hold of him? And I'm going to go to his place of employment, and do you know where he works?" And I just had to slow this person down and say, "No, I don't. I'm happy to send an email and connect you, and don't call me again." So I did the right thing. I did connect this individual, and after driving home for an hour, all I could think of was, how the heck did this person that's going to serve this person papers get my name and contact number and all my information to barrage me? And I found it very intrusive and frankly kind of scary, because I don't want to be caught up in anyone's lawsuits or anything else. And it took me a long time to realize that attorney's office, the person who was going to serve, that called me, the only place they could have found me was on LinkedIn. And I thought long and hard about that, and I thought, you know what, this isn't someone I want in my network. I don't want to be around whatever they're going through, and I'm very sorry. And I did the honorable thing. I did connect with that person in email, and I said, "Here's your case number. This person might serve you, and good luck." And then I went into LinkedIn, and if you go into the help screen, there is a way that you could get somebody out of your contacts, and they will never know what happened. And it's a good little tool to know something about in case you do get somebody in your LinkedIn that's minding your contacts or bothering some of your professional coworkers or colleagues, and you want to get them out of there. There's a way to do that. However, what I would say is you really should know and trust whoever you're going to let into your LinkedIn. You want to keep your contacts close to you and to be around people that you trust. Okay, we've got a couple of quick polls here. Then I'm going to get into the subject of blogs. So would you rather, this is a quick question, but it's important, would you rather monitor social media, or would you rather participate in social media? I call it the lurk, like you're just seeing what's going on out there. I kind of knew the answer to this. Yep. You'd all rather be lurking. Okay, that's fine. Interesting. So most of you would rather lurk than participate. That's okay. That's totally fair. Blogs. there is a way that you could actually have blogs work to your advantage. And if you have a technical, cool thing that you could write about or some problem solving, you could really strut your stuff. I know of a group here in Portland, which is mechanical engineers, and it's the Portland area SolidWorks user group. And SolidWorks is a 3D modeling software. And there was the one president who ran the group actually had a separate blog and a space actually on the Passwag site where he would find a technical problem or a cool way to design this, and he would actually list all that he had found. And some of those things were really helpful to get out there to the group. And it also spawns some really great technical discussions. So it's kind of a neat way to strut your stuff. You can blog. I don't think there's anything wrong with blogging. It always makes me wonder who's reading these things because I can't gauge or judge my audience so much. But I also want to be careful on the things I blog about because they're going to judge me on whatever I posted out there. So, and considering all of you or a lot of you like to lurk, maybe you just want to read the blogs, and that's okay too. Let's do one more poll. I want to get a feeling for the audience again. Here we go. So I was really curious what the favorite social media is of the group. Do you like Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and I'll talk about Twitter in a minute, or Flickr, or some other? Interesting. I've got like 1% in other, but I don't know what social media that would be. I'd be interested to see what that is. Okay, so we could close that poll. So about 59% really are using that LinkedIn. To tweet or not to tweet? That is the question. Twitter is interesting. I spent 45 minutes this week getting trained on it, and it's a very interesting way that you can control social media perception. It is fantastic if you're in retail or any sort of a store. It's a great way to communicate to your customers, throw out a quick tweet or a quick stun, as I would say, and tell them that you're having 20% off in your store, what have you. A great way to get a lot of excitement and hubbub around you. Twitter is really about gathering followers, if you will, and people that will look at your tweets and kind of see what you're up to. I do have a Twitter account. I'm getting better at it. I am not perfect at it. What I have come to understand is it's very important what you tweet, if you will. That if you are on Twitter or you're watching that, it needs to be a short little post about something of great value to your followers. Twitter is pretty powerful. I remember reading probably a year or so ago, there was a plane crash. I think it was on the East Coast in the Hudson, and a Twitter stun had gone out before the news had even found out what had happened. So it is very possible. But it is like a plant. You've got to water it. You've got to take care of it. You've got to grow it. And I'm working to do that with mine because I'm not so great at that. But overall, choose a social media that works for you. There are also some interesting people on Twitter. I mean, there's some great news stations. There's some great... there is some great individuals on there which were surprising to me. So it's interesting to follow them and see what they have to say. Okay, we have one more poll here. I believe this is our last one. I wanted to know what your least favorite social media was. Okay. All of you hate Twitter. Interesting. Facebook. You know, I need to tell you, I'm struggling with them as well. It's tough. Twitter, yes, I'm gathering you don't find value in it. I'm having a hard time finding value in it as well. But I also think that it's very popular amongst the Gen Y generation, and I'm trying to learn it because there are people that are coming up in their career that that may need my help or my assistance, so I'm trying to get with that. Facebook, it's making me crazy, if you ask my opinion, and I have both accounts, the Facebook and the Twitter and the blog, because of my book, Recession Proof Yourself, but they tend to be time consuming and arduous, and I'll do them, but I can't have it take up my whole day is what I'm finding. I wanted to leave with you, we'll do one more poll in a second, but I wanted to show you very quickly my sources. Very interesting. Socialnomics, phenomenal, pages and pages of phenomenal data and statistics around social media. And thefuturebuzz.com was another interesting piece as well, where there's just some great data out there about how to use it, who's using it, why they're using it, etc. Okay, and we're going to finish the session with one more poll, and then we can go to questions. I wanted to know what you really thought. Do you think social media overall is useful, a necessary evil, a time sucker, or the best invention ever? I would have to agree. So about half of you feel like it's a big time sucker, and I totally and completely understand that. This is my contact information. Lots of good free things on my website at www.elizabethlyons.com. You can see the book on there. The articles that I publish through the IEEE USA are posted on there. And my book is available through the site or on Amazon.com. And this week, Powell's Bookstore in Portland picked it up, which is kind of fun. And I'd like to open it up to questions if you have those. Somebody just wrote an excellent comment. Twitter is many to one communications. Absolutely, I would agree. I think then it goes back to who's following you. Jim asked, is there a downside to not being on social media at all? Oh my gosh, you guys are bombarding me with questions. Hang on, I'll get there. Jim wanted to know if there's a downside to not being on social media at all. Jim, I think that you're out there lurking, and you just rather lurk. Professionally, working or not, employed or in transition, I would have a LinkedIn profile. I mean, minimally, I would have that. We want to be able to see you and find you, and it's your opportunity to kind of stretch your professional stuff. And I think it is important that you're able to see those out there. And I think it just kind of makes you current. I don't jump on all the bandwagons, but that one I think is important from a professional perspective. The rest of them, if you're not interested, that's okay. Great question. How can social media be used to create a personal brand? Okay, so let's think about this a little bit. If you're on LinkedIn or social media, and there are thousands, tens of thousands, millions out there doing this, how do you separate yourself from the others? So that's a question you'll have to sleep on tonight. Ultimately, if it's a professional network like LinkedIn, we want to know, what do you do? Short and sweet and simply. And you could actually create branding around that. Branding and marketing is very specific. You'll also want to think about who is your demographic. And what are you trying to convey to them? On LinkedIn, we're trying to say we're professionals, we're available, these are our expertise, etc. On another social media, you might want to have branding look a little bit different. For example, artists and rock bands and people that are in the creative realm, they create their own branding out there through a lot of social networks, and they try to have their branding be consistent. So that's something to think about as well, because if you are creative, is that going to also sync up with your professional LinkedIn profile? branding is very tough. That goes back to demographics and marketing, so that's going to be tough. But sleep on and think about, how are you different than other people within your field, and what do you bring to the table that's unique and different, that are your gifts? What is the next big social media trend? I don't know. And I'm scared to know, because I really don't want to keep adding these things on, because it makes my day much longer. Just a moment. Privacy settings on Facebook really work. I've heard they work. I have heard they work. I have mine public because there's nothing on there that I'm embarrassed about or concerned about on my Facebook. You know what you're going to see that's personal is my dialogue about my son in his senior year in the football game. You'll see some football mom talk out there, if you will. But, you know, I thought about making it private, because I don't know that I want everything out there. This is an excellent question, Warren. If you are asked to write a recommendation and do not feel comfortable, what is the proper etiquette? That's tough, right? Because you kind of have to tell the truth. Here's the first thing that I would say is, sometimes I don't know what to say about a person, and so I'll go back to them and say, what are you looking for here? What are you really trying to get done or get accomplished? I'm not comfortable in people writing my recommendation for me and then having me go post it. That makes me very uncomfortable. But if you're not comfortable writing the recommendation, to be honest with you, I think that you're just going to have to be forthright and say that you're not comfortable. And I don't know that you need to go into why. You could say that it's just a policy that you don't do that sort of behavior, and that you just rather not. I think you've got to kind of be honest on that one. Derek, you're right. If it's private, don't post it. I mean, there's just too much out there online right now. I did hear something very frightening yesterday on the news. I don't know if everybody heard that or it was just a local thing. That there's hackers, I think it was hackers, and they can actually get into your Facebook and like overtake your Facebook and post things and say things that you never said or did. And the whole story was about better safeguards against, or put in for Facebook, if you will. That's was very, very frightening to me. That made me almost cancel my whole Facebook account there. Okay, Roberto, I do want to talk about that. If I get an invitation to join somebody in LinkedIn and you don't want to do it, do you ignore the request? I've been there, and I'll tell you exactly what I do. If I don't know you, you don't get in. And I write a very polite, respectful email back to you and say, the people in my LinkedIn are people that I've done business with for years. I know who they are. I know their families. And this isn't, I can't just let you into my little black book, if you will. These are people that I've known and done business for a long time, and I'm very protective of them. So I'm going to decline your invitation, and I hope you respect that. If you want to continue a business relationship with me and have me get to know you better, that's fine. Now, typically these sorts of invites come from people I don't know, from different parts of the country, and or headhunters. And there's no way I'm letting these people in my LinkedIn to mine my contacts or pester these individuals who I know and trust in my LinkedIn. So I think if you go into my LinkedIn, it's over 300 contacts. Yeah, I really know these people, and I really care about them, and I'm not going to let everybody in. So it's okay to just decline it. Can you ignore it? Yeah, but I would tell them why. It's for people and colleagues and trusted professionals. I'm happy to continue the relationship with you professionally, but I need to know you more before I let you in the LinkedIn. Modern search and rescue efforts, Facebook, LinkedIn, and other social media becomes a part of the figure method to figure out why the person is missing. Point. Okay, I believe my Facebook account is set privately. Can employers still search and see my content? Have a friend of yours or have somebody actually test that, because I think that would be information worth knowing. Okay, Rob posted an interesting question. What happens if you find something on LinkedIn? Does that also get the candidate off the call list? Yes, it does. So, if I'm recruiting somebody, and this did happen several years ago, if I'm recruiting somebody and I see stuff online about them that is a concern to me, like blatant drug use, yeah, I'm probably not going to call them. I'm wasting my client's time and my time. They're not going to pass the drug screen. It's just it's something I don't want to get into. So, do I personally screen that, or do employers? Does it take them off the call list? Yeah, it does. Just a second. I'm just reading some of these questions. Okay, when I Googled myself, I found other people with my name. That happens to me too, but they spell it wrong. They spell it Lyons, and that's pretty funny. There's a woman in Arizona who writes books for pregnant people. So I used to say, I'm not her, and that's not what I do, and people would laugh at that joke. So to Google yourself, I think is a smart thing to do. Yeah, is this going to affect you if they Google the name and things come up that aren't you? Anybody that uses these search engines and these search tools digs. We're looking for a couple of cross references of the name and of you in order to go, yep, this is that person. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. You know, if there's somebody that has your name and heaven forbid they're an axe murderer or something, they're going to know it's not you. I mean, there's going to be stuff out there. It's going to become clear over time. We don't just run one search, I guess is my point here. This isn't a one-hit thing. We make a judgment call and walk away. We're digging a little bit. Not long, I'll be honest with you there too. We're digging for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then we've moved on and we've made a decision. Oh, if you don't find anything on LinkedIn, do those people also drop you off the list? No, not necessarily. I've searched on LinkedIn and haven't been able to find somebody I was going to meet with, and then I search on Google, and then I start to poke around the internet and see if I can find anything. And if I find nothing at all, no, it does not mean that I drop them off the candidate list. It does mean I pick up the phone and I tend to throw them through a phone screen and maybe catch them a little off guard. And in other words, it's not a structured phone screen, and I'm asking some questions about why they're interested, how they came to me, their background, and then we kind of proceed from there. So if there's nothing out there on you, no, we don't necessarily say we don't want to know them at all. Any other questions? I guess it's pretty simple. If whatever you have to say you're not comfortable having on a billboard, don't say it. I'm just going to stand by for a minute or two for questions. Should you list specific accomplishments on LinkedIn? Yes, but where are they? Are they way down at the bottom of the page? They may or may not get read. So I think I would put important career highlights first. Again, broad strokes, big paintbrush. What industry did you come from? How many years have you worked in the field? Educational credits, papers that you wrote, courses that you took, highlights. Sure, to a point. You just don't want it to be too lengthy on the LinkedIn. We're just trying to get a quick summary of who you are. Yeah, LinkedIn is like an online resume. Get your major points up front, absolutely. If you love your children and they're going to graduate college, please teach them about social media. Very, very important. Tonight I'm speaking to the software automotive engineers at Daimler Chrysler here in town, and they have a small group of engineers that are about to graduate college. And so I'm going to speak to 60 students that are engineers within automotive that are going to graduate in June. And one of the things we're going to talk about is you better have a clean online social media profile, because employers are going to be looking at that. And that generation grew up in text and chats and this and that, and they think everybody is their friend. I mean, that's a concern for me, because that will hinder their ability to get into a company. Sure, you could list your LinkedIn profile on your business card, although I'm probably going to take your business card and look on LinkedIn, but you could. It's a whole different ball of wax when we're trying to teach the 20-somethings about resume writing and social media and so forth. I can't stress that enough. When I look at the network of a person on LinkedIn, what am I thinking? I don't. I don't really delve into who are their contacts so much. I look at who they are, because my inclination is birds of a feather flock together. And that's never served me wrong. I found in all my years of doing this that top talent, A players, hang out and eat lunch with A players. I've never been wrong, never once. So I don't go through their contacts and see who they're connected to. I'm not really interested in that so much. I really care more about who they are. How does one present multifaceted interests and abilities? Different technology, different roles, management versus individual contributor. That's going to be hard. I mean, I guess if you wanted my opinion, you could shoot me a quick email and I could take a look at it. I don't know. I guess, is that all the stuff that I would want to know about you? Yes, but I would want to know your management versus your individual contributor stuff. And if you're doing projects on the side that are technical of nature that have to do with your career, yes, I do want to know about those. So we'd have to see the flow of the profile online to see if it makes sense if I didn't know anything at all. So I might be a good marketing test bed there, because if I don't know you at all, then I can read this and tell you what I see and what I think, and you could say, no, I don't want you to get that impression, then go rewrite it. I mean, I would be happy to do that. You could group things of priority of what you want to do or show. I don't know, that's a tough one. You could. Down the bottom, I don't know why, I always read the bottom of people's resumes, the bottom. I mean, did you put your interests down? Yeah, I might look at that or not look at that. In LinkedIn, I'm curious to see, how do you like to be contacted? And there's a little section down there that'll say, I want to know about, getting back in touch and job inquiries and blah, blah, blah. I want to know, how do you like to be approached usually, and I like to know what you're interested in. very smart. It's hard to blog about interesting things, as I may not want my employer and may not want to share them with, these sorts of things with this. Yeah, I would agree. When you get into stuff like that, if you have, maybe you don't blog. Maybe you set up an email and you send it out to the people that you trust, professional colleagues that you would want to bounce the ideas off of an email once a month, or those sorts of things to get others' input. Yeah, volunteer information is good to show outside interest. But you know what? Be careful. Because what if your calling is helping battered puppies and I don't like that? Do you just see what I'm saying? It's social media. It should talk to the masses. Maybe you're in a religious group or a church group. Maybe you don't want that on your LinkedIn because, again, you want to keep it open enough so that no one is offended and no one rushes to judgment or what have you. So the other activities that you do or the other volunteer things that you do, I think should have some professional realm there. I'm going to take questions for about another minute. No, don't post on your LinkedIn, interested in other opportunities. I meuld down the bottom, you can say, I'm interested in getting back in touch, job inquiries, job opportunities. That's okay. Oh, like a bold headline at the top. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Not in recession and not when the market shifts around in a couple of years. Everybody's profile says that. Go look at your boss's profile. I bet you money. His says, I'd be interested in job inquiries. I'd be interested in getting back in touch. So it's okay. I wouldn't go into, really paranoia on that. But to post like in the headline and you are employed looking for other opportunities, probably not. Not now. Because again, your employer may look at your LinkedIn, they may not. Again, if anybody wants me to look very quickly at their LinkedIn, I don't know that my opinion matters. I'd be happy to look at it though. If you want my opinion, I would. Again, I don't want to get you too concerned about LinkedIn or the other social media, but I did want to share with you today what employers look for. So just take it as food for thought. I wouldn't get too concerned about it. How often do employers really care about your outside interests? That's a personal question and subjective to each employer. Me personally, I don't usually care. And furthermore, I don't really want to know, but that's me, right? I want to know what you do professionally. I don't want to know what you do after 5 or 6 o'clock and on weekends necessarily. But again, that's a subjective question. That's my response. If they're professional organizations that you're interested in, such as, or active in, such as the IEEE USA, and you attend those meetings and you're a member, absolutely, please put that on your LinkedIn or on your resume. That is of interest to me. For instance, in my LinkedIn, I talk about, it's a society for type. It's the Myers-Briggs Society because I have an interest and a background in Jung psychology, and that's professional, so I put it in there. That is of interest to me. And that's kind of something that goes with my profession, so I do have that on there. Again, I think it depends on your interests. Okay, this is a good question. If it's not for a recruiter, what's the value of a network on LinkedIn? It is a value because if, God forbid, you're out of a job, you don't want to start your networking practices then, and you don't want to start your social media networking practices. This is like years ago, you had a Rolodex of all your business contacts. It's the same thing, only it's online and everybody can see your Rolodex. So it is important, particularly for engineers. Keep track of your colleagues. They'll change a job, you'll change a job. These are people that you trust and you respect. You might be interested in the projects that they're working on. LinkedIn has a very interesting feature that says, what are you working on today? And I often will go in there once a week or twice a week and throw out a little stun that says, you know, what happened to me this week, or what, you know, how the book's progressing, because everybody asks me, how is the book progressing? Well, that goes through, you know, my network of 300 people, and now they've had a quick update about what I'm up to. If you don't have any way to contact your professional colleagues, this is a good way to start. So it's also for you as well. You know, is it a personal billboard for recruiters to look at? Yes, somewhat, but really the focus is on you as well. These are professionals that you want to keep track of during your career. Could it be done in email too? Yeah, but when the rubber hits the road and you have a problem, or you're in job transition, or you really need to know someone, or you, whatever, you just go to LinkedIn. It's all there. It's one quick filing cabinet of everybody you've known professionally. So that's where it kind of suits you. Good question, because I spent a lot of time focusing on what does the outside world see in LinkedIn, but it is for you, and it's about your contacts and the people that you want to stay in touch with. And you're right, you can utilize your contacts networks as well. Okay, here's an excellent illustration. I'm working with a candidate right now that's very interested in ABC Company, and I don't work with ABC Company. I can't show him the jobs over there. I don't know the managers. It's going to take me some time to get the right contacts and then market them in. The issue with that is there's a good chance that employer is not going to pay my fee. I mean, we're in 11.5% unemployment here in Oregon, and the chances of them paying my 20 to 25% of the annual salary is very slim. I don't want to blow this individual shot at getting a job at ABC Company. So what I told him was, go through my LinkedIn. Look at mine and look at others. If they work for that company, or if they're tied to somebody in that company, go to them. I'll give you the introduction if I need to, or go to them directly and say, hey, I'd like to ask you a couple questions about this organization. And you could maybe network your way into their, you know, beyond my help. So it's a great way, if you do look at other people's contacts, it's a great way to leverage where did they work. Maybe it's not their current job, maybe it was a couple jobs ago. Another point about that, if you look on my LinkedIn, I was a technical recruiter at AppCon, and I have had people come to me very quietly on the side and say, hey, I'm going to interview there. What do you know about them? And I will pick up the phone and share with them a little bit about what I know. I'm absolutely respectful and professional to my previous employer, because that's smart and that's good, and I'm fine with them, so that's okay. But it's interesting how people will look at where I last worked, and they're going to interview there, and that's another way to get information. Okay, and I'm going to take two more questions, and that's it. Tom asked, any confusion created by posting both work and personal email address at the bottom of the LinkedIn? Nope, I don't think so. If I'm trying to find you, I'm gonna find you. And I'm probably gonna use both email addresses, and I'm probably gonna put one in the to and one in the CC box, and that's how that's gonna go. Any other questions, and I'm gonna wrap it up. Okay. This concludes the IEEE USA webinar. I hope it was helpful. If you have any individual questions, you're welcome to contact me through email. I will always help you. Thank you.